Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Law of Attraction podcast. If you don't know me already, my name is Laura and I am the founder of Law of Attraction Life Coaching, and I run this channel that offers advice from myself, Laura, and I'm a mentor and a life coach, and I just look to help people to become their best selves. And I do that by offering one-to-one coaching. I create meditation programs and inspired motivational advice, hopefully, on a range of topics. Now, my story began about 15 years ago when I decided that I didn't want to live in the depression that I was living in anymore. And so I began what has ended up being a lifelong mission to acquaint myself with as many strategies, and I've read all the books and I've been to all the seminars and I've learned all that I possibly could to biohack my way to being a happier and better person. And along with all of the strategies that I discuss in the podcast, I also learnt about the law of attraction, and that has changed my life exponentially. And I will talk about that a little bit more in the future. So enough of the introductions. I wanted to talk to you today about something that has appeared in my life twice in the last couple of weeks, and that was about death and bereavement, which is a bit of a touchy subject. A lot of people don't really want to talk about it, but I think it's really important to discuss. And if you listened to my last podcast, you would have heard me talk about when I unfortunately found a man on the floor who'd collapsed, and I aided him in CPR. But he had no pulse when I found him, and I don't think that the CPR was successful, unfortunately. So that was very sad, but feel free to watch the other podcast about that one. And then last week I attended my best friend's mother's funeral, and this was a woman that I've known for 28 years. He's been my friend since I was 4. Showing how old I am there, but and you know, I've known this woman for that amount of time, and I used to spend a lot of time around their house, and you know, I see her quite regularly, and you know, I can't help but feel, you know, really sad for him in this really difficult time for him. And what I kind of think about is that, you know, death is something that not only comes for us all, but it also affects all of us in some way, shape or form at some point. And you know, what I have kind of seen is that here in the West, people don't really like to talk about death. You know, the words seem overly simple, you know, and depleted in the gravity of the situation. And so people kind of tend to clam up a little bit, and they don't really know what to say in these situations. Now, for me, spirituality has been really helpful in these situations because I don't feel like the end of the physical manifestation is the end. I think that we are souls having human experiences, and I believe that that soul continues in another existence, in another plane, in another way, after our physical manifestations cease to live. So for me, that has always been helpful because I don't feel like the end is the end. And so I feel like the people that I have lost are still going on in some manner, which is quite comforting. Now, I've channeled things that I can't really explain. I've been to mediums. I have had some very strange experiences that make me believe in the supernatural, and I have felt the hand of God in many different ways, and law of attraction is just one of those. I can't explain these things, but I would like to say that it isn't blind faith. However, if you're not a believer, perhaps just trying to be open to some of these things as opposed to being closed might be better, because nobody can say for sure. And I'm not so obstinate to say that, that I'm not just mad and I'm perceiving things to be happening because of a desire to, want to explain things that I don't understand. And that could be just as true as that, the hand of God is around me, and that people go on after they pass away. So none of us really know, until we get up there, until we die, none of us really know. So death is a difficult thing to deal with. 1 minute you have your living, talking, full of soul person in your life, and then the next minute the person that you love is torn out of your life, never to be seen again. And that contradiction between having somebody there and then them going is such a stark contrast that something I would suggest is very helpful in these situations is actually going to see the body of your relative after they've passed away. And if you've done this, leave in the comments how you found it, because I have found it very helpful. Because 1 minute they're there and the next minute they're gone, and it gives you an opportunity to reckon with this. Going and seeing the body or having the body in the home is really common practice in a lot of older religions. So Judaism have the body within the home. A lot of cultures in the East, they again have the body within the home. Some cultures even, they preserve the body and they bring it out like a year later on the anniversary so they can see their loved one again. This is something that is very commonplace outside of Western culture. And, a lot of people that I have spoken to about death, they say, I don't want to see my loved one like that. I don't want to remember them. The last thing I have to see them is them lying on a mortuary slab dead. That's that. They feel like that isn't the last image that they want to have of them. And I can kind of get that. But from a psychological point of view, going to see your loved one after they have passed gives you a chance to reckon with the ending. It gives you the chance to understand that there's a closure on that physical relationship with that person. When we can recognise that we are seeing our loved one for the last time, we're able to say goodbye. And we're able to deal better with the bereavement. Far too often in the West, our loved ones die in hospital. They often die away from us because people who die seem to have this fantastic habit of doing it at 4 a.m. in the morning. And, this is the time where you're not with them because you're asked to leave from the hospital. And in my experience, it's always been about 4 a.m. And I don't know why that is. And, it seems to be this thing that people want to pass alone, and it's quite a bizarre thing. But, often they're alone or they are with strangers, and, they die in hospital. You're contacted to say that they have died, and they're taken down to the mortuary, and the last time that you saw them will be the last time that you see them. A lot of people don't go to see their loved ones after they've passed away. And so the time that they weren't aware was the last time, will be the last time. And that's very difficult. That's very difficult to reckon with, because 1 minute you're having a conversation with somebody and they're alive and you're saying to them, I'll see you next week, I'll see you again. And then you never see them again. And that's incredibly difficult. The contrast between your brain thinking that you're going to see somebody and then never seeing them again is very difficult, incredibly difficult. And when you can have that moment when you know that they have passed and you receive that news, but then you go to see their body after they've passed, it allows your brain to understand and your subconscious to understand that this I'll see you soon isn't something that's going to happen. It's an opportunity for you to go and gain closure, you know, in a moment that is incredibly difficult. And I'm not saying this is going to be something that's easy. It's not. I have done this, and you know, it's painful. It's a painful experience because you still know that the last time that you're with that person is going to be the last time. And it's, for me, it was like my legs were made of concrete, you know, and I was saying goodbye to my grandmother and I was looking at her in a casket, and, you know, it was like my body didn't want to move. You know, it's like I couldn't pull myself out of that room because I physically knew that that was the last time I would ever lay my eyes on her. But at the same time, by doing that, it managed to give me some of that mental closure, and it gave me the awareness of a really tough situation, which when somebody is just in your life 1 minute and then ripped out of your life the next minute and you never see them again, that is even much harder to comprehend and to become aware of. So, I mean, I would definitely recommend going and seeing your loved ones, and I have done this, and between the loved ones that I didn't go to see after they'd passed and the loved ones that I did go to see, it was easier for me to move through the states of bereavement with the people that I had seen, because, as I said, it gave me the opportunity to consciously find closure on our relationship and know that I was saying goodbye for the last time. And, you know, when we leave people in hospital, we leave people who are sick, or, you know, even, you know, tragic accidents, you don't say goodbye to your loved one and say it in a version that is expecting that this may be the last time. And so, you know, even when they're in hospital and you're saying, you know, and you know subconsciously, you know consciously that this might be the last time you see, this might be the last time that you see them, you don't have that awareness. So, you know, the loss of a loved one can also bring up a lot of existential crisis and issues in our personal life. You know, it's a chance for us to ponder our own mortality, which is something that a lot of people avoid. And for me, you know, I spent a long period of time suicidal, and so I tended to think about my mortality quite a lot. You know, after all, that was where my journey began, to where I am now, and you know, being suicidal for the best part of my youth, those years that I wasted, you know, and I put that in inverted commas because being sad has made me have this great lust for life now, and it's given me the ability to help so many people, so I wouldn't turn any of that back for a million years. But, you know, I realised at the time, and I realise now, that life is short, you know, it's fleeting and it is precious. You know, and I'm one of the lucky ones who seemingly was protected by the hand of God to ensure that I'm still here today, because by God did I try. And, you know, I did some really, really stupid things when I was younger in a hope that I wouldn't wake up in the morning. And every single time I woke up. So, I mean, by the hand of God go thee, because I have no explanation for how, you know, even at the best of my ability, I continued to be here. You know, and this luck that I had when I was younger has lit a fire underneath me. You know, I want to live life to the fullest, and now I want to help as many people as I possibly can. So, you know, what can we do if we have a friend who is bereaved? Well, you know, as I said, most things that we say are dim in the greatness of their loss. And all we really can do for our friends is just be there to support them, you know, to hold their hands and to do for them whatever they would find helpful in that moment. And just knowing somebody is there for you is often enough, you know. Just, you know, a telephone call, a hug, you know, a dinner taken over, you know, a conversation that might be about something completely different, you know, or just an offer just to say, you know, I'm here. You know, sometimes that is enough. You don't need to do great grand gestures, because in that time, the person is so shattered that it is difficult for them to live life as they would. And so just having the acknowledgement of your pain and having somebody turn to you and say, I am with you and I love you and I'm here, is often all you can and all they need. All you can do and all they need. So, you know, and your friend isn't going to be normal. You know, I think it's important to remember this. Your friend isn't going to be normal. They're going to be off. You know, they might be sad. They might even be perhaps oddly bright. I mean, the steps of bereavement are shock, denial, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. So as your friend begins to work through these steps, you may find them going through some very strange behaviors. You know, one minute they may be saying, well, I don't feel like they're gone, everything's fine, and then the next minute they may be very angry and they may be portraying that anger towards the people that gave them care. They may be blaming the NHS or blaming the people that were the carers, or blaming themselves, blaming the person that's left them, you know, and then there's you know, denial about the situation. There's bargaining. They may be saying, you know, if only I could do this, I could do that. If I could do this, this would happen. And then after a while, there's acceptance. And the only thing that you can really do is give them the liberty to be in the step that they are in. Don't try to push them through to other steps. Just let them be in the step that they are in. Let them take the time and support them in a loving way, you know. And most people move through the steps of bereavement fairly easily, you know. And if they feel the emotions that they are feeling and they make space to feel their pain in an earnest way, then, you know, this is something that happens very naturally and they will come to some acceptance. And it isn't that we just get over it and it's fine and we don't care anymore. That isn't what acceptance of bereavement is about. It is about being able to repair and remedy your life, to move on in a way that is authentic to you, and to be able to live with the memory of your loved one in a way that isn't constantly painful to you. So yeah, Christmases, birthdays, anniversaries, whatever, you know, special days, you probably will still find yourself tear up 10, 15, 20 years down the line. That's normal. But to be crying about it every day after you've moved through the steps of acceptance, that isn't normal. And if you are still suffering from that heavy level grief, it is often because you haven't moved through the steps. And you haven't made space for your emotions to feel them, to allow them to manifest in your life in a full way, to be able to deal with the emotion and then gain closure upon it. So how do we feel the emotions that we have so that we can release them? Well, this takes honesty with yourself and an ability to connect with your heart center. So we often spend our lives ignoring our pains because it's uncomfortable. You know, that's pretty standard. But this starts an addiction cycle with instant gratification. I've got a podcast on instant gratification if you want to go back and listen to that. It's called Instant Gratification is the Road to Hell. So if you didn't know what I think about that from that title, you'll find out in a second. And I don't want to talk about this too long because I've spoken about it before, but instant gratification is a way of avoiding pain. You know, and we often avoid pain by doing something unhealthy in the moment to soothe ourselves. So such as a glass of wine or a chocolate bar. But this only stems the issue temporarily. You know, and the pain is going to rear its ugly head at some point again until you learn to deal with it. And deal with it until it is dealt with, it's final, it's closed, and it's done with. So holding space for people to be able to feel their pain and feel their emotion is a very important part of my coaching with my clients. But you don't need me to facilitate you. You can do this on your own. And you can hold your own space for yourself. So how do we do this? Well, when an emotion arises, I want you to place your hand on your heart. And I want you to take a deep breath in. And you can begin to ask yourself questions about the feelings that you are feeling. And I think one of the very important questions to ask, if this is something that is just a emotion or something that you're dealing with in your life, is this mine to carry? You know, so many of my clients are carrying burdens from other people. But in the case of bereavement, you know, what is this feeling? Is a really good place to start. You know, and you'll have your subconscious voice, and it's your inner voice, and it's the first voice that you hear. And you will often hear it will say something like sadness, grief, anger, disappointment, rejection, fear. And you'll hear the first voice, and the first voice is your subconscious. Take that first answer, okay? When you start to hear other things like, no, it's not that, it's this is your conscious mind, okay? And your conscious mind generally talks a lot of nonsense. It attempts to protect you because it's living in its caveman mind that is there to protect you in the autonomic nervous system, but it isn't necessarily something that's truthful to you, nor is it something that is helpful. So place your hand on your heart, you breathe in deep, and do this when you're feeling the emotion and ask, what is this emotion? And you'll hear something in your subconscious mind that will begin to prick up and will tell you, and it will say like fear, okay? And I want you to sit with that emotion, and I want you to say it loud, I am feeling frightened. And then I want you to ask yourself, why am I feeling frightened? And again, your subconscious voice will prick up and it will give you an answer. And take the first answer because it's 99% of the time truthful. And it will give you this answer. I'm feeling frightened because I've lost my loved one. Okay. And why are you feeling frightened that you've lost your loved one? Because I'm scared that I cannot look after myself anymore. You know, and you'll begin to hear these answers that come through, and they tend to follow, you know, that kind of line of thinking. But it will start to show you the real deep down residual emotions that you're often ignoring. And when you acknowledge them, when you allow them to come to the surface, when you allow yourself to feel that pain in an honest and earnest way, it allows your body, it allows your mind, your subconscious to release it. And it also makes your conscious more aware of the issue that's happening. And so, for instance, if you were feeling fearful because you are frightened that you can't take care of yourself without your loved one, your conscious mind will be able to start to find remedies for that. And your subconscious mind will begin to work with it. And so you can answer that as an adult, not as the fearful inner child that is often speaking in these situations. And you can remedy it. I don't need to be fearful because I'm an adult and I have looked after myself many times before. And when you can self-soothe in a clarified way, you are able to release the emotion and soothe yourself in a way that doesn't require instant gratification, and in a way that deals with the issue at hand so it doesn't become something that compounds itself over time and gets worse. So I hope this helps, and if you are suffering with bereavement at the moment, I would like to send my love to you, and I would like to send my best wishes and all of my positivity towards you to help you to reckon with what's happening in your life and to be able to move through it and find peace. And I want to tell you that there is always light at the end of the tunnel, and that you will find peace again, and that your loved one will be happy for you to continue your life in a happy and joyful way. And you needn't feel guilty about that, nor should you. So if you've got any practices, if you've got any advice for anyone, if you are dealing with bereavement at the moment, if you've got anything you would like to talk to me about, please comment, please leave a message below. Please subscribe, please get in touch. I love to hear from you guys, and I love to help you all. I love reading your comments, and I really hope that until I speak to you next, you take care of yourselves, that you find happiness, and that your days are bright and joyful. So lots of blessings to you all. Thank you ever so much for listening. Thank you for taking the time out to listen to me ramble. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. So take care of yourselves.